good podcast listeners. It's your favorite podcast coming right back at you. Cruzin with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee. In this week's episode, we talk about something that's super important, mental health. So stay tuned because we want you to hear what mental health is really about, and we offer a few resources for help. Stay tuned, that's coming up next. Hey, listeners, this is another episode of Cruzin with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee. That is part of the Live All Good podcast family. We appreciate you coming back after that short break. Julie Cruz, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am in shock.
Oh, no. What?
It's October.
I know. But I love fall so much.
No. It is cool. It's you know what? It's a good reset.
Mm.
And yes, I'm teasing our topic, but it's a good reset, right? Like the change of seasons. I would like to classify it as it's something that's transforming into something new, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's not necessarily so yes, one season is ending, but it's not. It's just transforming, right? So I know that's a huge abstract thing where you can't really.
It's the season of harvest, is it not?
There you go, right? There you go. So yes, it's so now that we're in the season of harvesting, there's nothing wrong with resetting and gathering what you need for what we're going to talk about, which is mental health. Great reset.
Yes.
So, a couple. I think let's dive right in. Let's start here. A couple months ago, Olympic Games. They were in Tokyo, and there was some shocking things that happened. Right? Shocking things. One of the U.S. athletes, the most decorated Olympic or most decorated U.S. gymnast, I believe. I'd have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure.
Pretty damn close.
Yeah, pretty sure she's the most decorated gymnast, U.S. gymnast. Biles. She withdrew from her individual events, or from the team events, I'm sorry, because of mental health reasons. Okay? We'll touch on that in a second. I want to go back even months before that, right? Go back because of the pandemic, the scheduling was a bit off, but Naomi Osaka, up and coming, fast rising tennis star, withdrew from the French Open, I believe it was, for mental health reasons. And I'm so happy for her that she was able to represent Japan and light the torch as we're talking about the Olympics. But man, those are two athletes at the top of their game, in their prime, that willingly took timeouts to address their mental health needs. Let's start there, folks. Let's kind of peel back these layers of mental health being stigmatized as something wrong or as something that makes you weak, right? I think those two ladies in particular showed extreme courage and extreme strength by opening up and being honest about it, and taking that time of reaching out for whatever they needed to do, because we were talking about this in our pre meeting, right? Where what happens if they don't take a timeout?
Right.
And what happens? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the piece we're not talking about. We're not talking about the fact that I mean, obviously, nothing against men. Okay, let me start with that. Okay. But, women take on a lot. They take on a lot, and they are not one to say what they can or cannot do. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? They
Absolutely.
will push through and
Mhm.
do whatever it is that is needed to be done, whether it's for their own parents, for their children, for their spouse. They will keep it moving.
All
Okay.
the above. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
And to have these women step up and say, look, I can't, and I
Mhm.
can't for me. How
Yes.
often do you hear someone say, I can't for me? I
Mhm.
need this. And it's amazing to me that there was any kind of
Mhm.
negative
Mhm.
comments or anything said about what it is that those women did, because what they did was very courageous, because
Yes.
that's not something that you the time and effort that goes into what they were doing, and
Mhm.
to make it to the position and spot where you're going to take it to the next level, and to
Mhm.
say, I can't, or
Mhm.
I will not, is
Yes.
basically what they
Yes.
said. I will not. They didn't say I
Mhm.
can't. They said I will not, because
Yeah.
they couldn't. And I mean, I don't know. That's just special to me. That spoke volumes for
I.
any other person, and it doesn't even have to, I'm not talking male or female, any other
Mhm.
person, to say, I have hit my limit,
Yeah.
and I
I,
won't, I
I
can't.
completely agree with you. And yes, first I agree with you on how women take on the superwoman syndrome,
Hmm.
right? Or feel the need because we're so conditioned, or at least, in my experiences, women are conditioned to, well, you should be able to do it all, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how unfair is that?
Right.
How unfair is that to, in an unspoken way, well, sometimes overtly, right?
Right.
Say that that should be the burden you have to carry. Where is that line that you draw? Where is that boundary, right? We've talked about so many of these things.
Hmm.
Where is that line where you can take time for yourself to be
Right.
okay? We There's something that we've mentioned in quite a few episodes. Put your own oxygen mask on first.
Right. 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 Right.
Because if you don't, you are no good to help anyone else.
Right.
And so, man, yes, absolutely courageous of these two young women.
Hmm.
And like you said, to your point, this is something I would be willing to bet from age of two, right?
Hmm.
Two,
Right.
three, gymnast, playing tennis. This is something they train for to get to the top their
For their
entire lives.
life, their
Yes,
lives. Come
yes.
on.
And to say, wait a minute, I and I love your reframe. Not that I cannot, I will not push through
Hmm.
because right now I've got some stuff going on that I need to sort through.
Right.
Man,
Right.
that I'm going to say it now, but I'm going to mention it again later. The most powerful thing that you can do for your mental health is being vulnerable to acknowledge it and then ask for help.
Right. Right. I think
That
we
is
have,
by far the most
yes,
powerful thing.
we have too many people pretending to be okay, and they're not.
Mm, mm. Say that again.
We have too many people pretending to be okay, and they are not.
Man, speak on it.
Mm.
Because it is, for those of you who didn't hear that, she repeated. For those in the very far back who like, nah, y'all not talking about me. Mm-mm. No, now y'all must be talking about somebody else. I don't feel
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
It is okay to not be okay.
It is. It is.
Man, it is okay to not be okay. Because, yeah, like we all have, we're talking, like you said, we mentioned we're in October, right?
Hmm.
Well, as far as I know, the pandemic isn't like over. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Hasn't ended. It hasn't gone away. It
Right.
doesn't just like disappeared. So it, that
But
has. Go ahead.
It's like
Sorry.
we're all waiting for a notice in the mail. Like it's not
Right.
going to happen.
Right.
Like come on,
Right.
come on.
And so there's a lot that gets uncovered with how we manage this the new way of having to do stuff,
Right.
that weighs heavily emotionally and mentally. Like again, it's okay to not be okay with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's absolutely imperative to reach out for help. You
Right.
know,
Right.
you have to know that you're not alone in dealing with any mental health, and I won't even say issues, right? Just your own mental state. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're in, real quick, I'm gonna take a little side note here. Your mental state and your mental health has a huge part to play on your physical health.
Oh,
Be,
absolutely.
and because if you're under this l- constant stress, and the body will recognize any like anxiety and fears and those kind of things with your mental health, the body recognizes that as stress, no matter how you, as you said, pretend you're okay, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if you're constantly having chronic stress, it then begins to manifest itself with lifestyle diseases, or even worse, with things that can be avoided if you learn to manage the stress. Like some of these things are out of our control,
Right.
right?
Right.
But being able to manage them in a way that is more productive and not destructive, that's what we're talking about. That's what the key to mental health is. Oh man, it's critical. It's
Yeah.
critical.
And it's your responsiveness too. So like if you recognize the things that you're doing that
Hmm.
might be out of character per se,
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
isolating yourself, no longer going out, not hanging out with, the people who know you the best.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
because why aren't you hanging out with the person who knows you the best?
Yeah, right. Or even to piggyback on what you're saying, even if you don't want to hang out with them, you're avoiding them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're not even texting or calling or FaceTiming, whatever. If
Right.
you're avoiding them,
Right.
yeah, that's even those are signs that maybe it's okay. It is
Mm-hmm.
okay to, and maybe sometimes people feel more comfortable in reaching out to a complete stranger,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no, again, we're not judging you for anything mentally or dealing with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
but you may have that block to get over that someone will.
Yeah.
I know that there's I've seen commercials where it's these what is it called, Talkspace, I think it is, that's an
Okay.
that's an app that you can put on your phone,
Yeah.
that you actually get to, I don't, haven't looked into it, haven't used it, but that's an option. If there's no one that that you trust, or that you can be open and honest with, that that's one way to, maybe a complete stranger will help you feel better with what you're going through.
Yeah.
You
And the good
know.
thing is they offer, you can text, you can chat, you can do video, you can call.
Mm,
So, it's any way that you feel comfortable.
sure, sure.
So,
That's, yeah. I think that's, I may have to dive into that app and see, what it offers.
mhm.
Because that might be something that we can talk about further on future episodes.
Yes,
To help
definitely.
people. Yeah,
Definitely.
man. But yeah, those two ladies were so courageous.
Hmm.
And like it's just understated. Can't say enough how important that is. It even goes to the point of a lot of NBA players starting to at least acknowledge that mental health is important. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I cannot imagine, right? These young kids, they get drafted, right? They, whether they're in college, whether they go to the G League, whatever, and there's all of this sudden fame, all this sudden expectations, these millions of dollars in your face,
Right?
and and you're supposed to at 18, 19, 20, just be able to deal with that in a
Right.
productive way.
And wrap your head around it and surround yourself with people who are there to protect you. And I mean,
Oh
that,
boy.
that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen
Right.
easily.
Yeah. And so, man, that can affect your mental health and you don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it coming. Oh man, this is such an important thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I think we're gonna jump to a quick break here, but I want to kind of put this out there before we go to break. Um, the media has kind of an important role to play in how mental health is portrayed. So we want to dive into that after the break. How do you feel about that, Julie?
That sounds like a plan.
Cool. All right, guys. Um, yeah. So we're gonna take a quick break, but just hang tight and kind of think about mental health for a minute and what that means, how that shows up with what you're going through right now. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, welcome back from that quick break. This is, if you're just tuning into this segment here, this is Cruising with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee. So before the break, we really touched on like mental health and talked about some courageous young ladies, Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, how they really just stepped up and were amazing in their vulnerability to say they will not push through at the expense of their mental health.
Yes.
That was so important. And we're talking months ago with the Olympics and a few months before that with the French Open. But also, like Julie, you touched on something so important, and we talked about it last segment as well,
Mm-hmm.
with this unfair burden that women carry so frequently, and I'm assuming fight with so often, right? About
Mm-hmm.
being a superwoman,
Right.
having to do it all. And my goodness, if you mention anything, it's like, oh, what are you complaining about, right?
Right. Right.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So, well, Julie, why are you complaining? No, I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm
No,
kidding.
seriously, like when I say I'm done, I'm done.
Right. And folks, you got to listen to that. It's real.
Yes. Yes.
And so, I tease something, and the media has a big part to play in this, right? The media will quickly portray men as these mentally strong pillars who, they're laser focused and nothing is bothering them, this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was so frustrating. I won't I won't say it was the whole media, but seeing any kind of pushback or backlash from the two ladies we're talking about in any way, shape, or form, calling them weak
Mm-hmm.
or that they quit on their team, right?
Right.
I mm, I will refrain from choice words if I can,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just absolutely insane for those kind of things to come out, and yet this double standard of men who've been considered mentally strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. Probably with my own co-host here, but that's okay, you know.
Okay.
But I did see something to this effect. I can't believe if, or can't remember if it was on social media or if it was just in the media somewhere. But people were comparing the mental strength and mental health of Michael Jordan with Simone Biles. And I'm gonna tell you all, okay, he's a North Carolina alum. My co-host is gonna rake me
Mm,
over the coals
mm,
for this,
mm, mm.
but
I'm gonna listen first.
it's it's absolute bullshit
Right.
because so okay, they win. Well, let's before the first three-peat of the Bulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Bulls were getting bullied no pun intended,
Mm.
getting pushed around, beat up
Mm-hmm.
by the Detroit Pistons and the Boston Celtics, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs. Couldn't win anything. So they were mentally defeated. Okay? Let's
Mm-hmm.
just take that. So fine. They break through that block. They win this first three-peat, and clearly a tragedy happened in MJ's life where his
Lost
father
his
was
father.
murdered. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an awful thing. Awful thing. So aside from the context of what happened to him in his life, I'm sorry, you guys, he quit. He took a timeout and he quit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am not judging him for this, but I'm saying it in that way to get your attention that what he did is no different than what Naomi Osaka or what Simone Biles did. They just did it in a different way without the tragedy happening.
Mm-hmm.
But he had some mental health issues after losing his father in that way.
Right.
So do I blame him for taking a time out? Hell no.
No, no.
Not at
But
all.
but yet we have two females
Mhm.
who proactively, and I say that in air quotes, guys,
Yes.
proactively took a timeout because they could almost probably view the tragedy of what could have happened for them.
Exactly.
For
Exactly.
them, they were taking care of themselves, and there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that.
It's
Nothing
so
else.
important. So important. So okay, then, my man goes and plays baseball. It's not really that good at it.
Okay, we'll pretend those years didn't happen. Okay,
Oh, yeah, right, right. Doesn't exist. Doesn't it?
that
Went
didn't happen. That
right
didn't
up.
happen.
So okay, he goes back to playing baseball or basketball. Sorry, and the second three-peat and all that, right?
Mhm.
But man, like you cannot dismiss the whole having to take a time out to
Mhm.
regroup and reset. You you can't do that. It's just not fair, right?
Right.
I want to take another avenue with this, and by all means, you guys, I am not. This is not character assassination. This is not judging. I am pointing out facts about what we know about public personalities.
Mhm.
Okay, consider this and imagine for an instant how much different certain lives would be, and I'm talking about people in the public eye because they unfortunately um, have more access. They are given, people are able to access them more. Some stuff is made up, some stuff's not. But
Mhm.
what happens to them is out for public consumption.
Right.
So imagine and consider all of the different lives that could have maybe been saved or taken a different turn if mental health was put on the table as a thing, and it should be.
Mhm.
You would have probably a lot lower divorce rate. You would probably have less drug abuse, and you'd probably have I'll put it out there, less sexual abuse, right? Excuse me. And I'm speaking in terms of men here
Mm.
because as men, we're taught to bury those things. We're
Mm.
taught that, oh, man up, right? Get your shit together. You know, what's another one? Be strong, be tough, right? Any vulnerability is a sign of weakness.
Mhm.
And so you bottle it up, you push it down, and it sits there. And then it manifests itself in these other destructive activities.
Okay.
So just consider that for you know how much more productive could people be if they didn't use these other vices to manage mental health. And no, I'm not talking about marijuana as one of the drug addictions.
Mhm.
I'm not speaking of that. Uh, I could run off like easily 10 different examples right now.
Okay.
Like addicted to painkillers, all kind of stuff, right? Just imagine if we allowed mental health to be on the table, to truly be dealt with and managed, and it be okay.
So you're saying if there was an outlet, so these are outlets for individuals who you think might be suppressing, is what you're saying.
Absolutely,
Okay.
100%. I've used this example. I may have said it before, and I'll say it again.
Hmm.
Um, it's like a soda bottle, right?
Hmm.
You got all this carbonated stuff, and obviously you're moving around, so it's shaking. But you're told, no, don't let that out. So you put a tight cap on it, right? And you
Okay.
push the soda bottle down. But you keep moving, and you keep pushing, and you keep going. Well, that shakes the soda bottle even more, right? But you've put this cap on so tight that there's nowhere for this to go. It's
Hmm.
not going to start leaking out. So over time, what happens? The glass begins to crack. Or for those of you who drink plastic soda bottles, the, the plastic expands.
Hmm.
And eventually, it's going to explode. And once it explodes, not only does it explode outward, right? That's the small part that you see. Imagine what the explosion is like on the inside.
Right. What's under the iceberg?
That you hit it on the. I was just about to say that.
Yep.
Yeah, we only see the tip of the iceberg above the water, right?
Right.
Imagine the massive amount that's underneath the water, underneath the surface. And so that's what is the danger of not fully addressing mental health.
But the other side of that token is I would like to. I mean, again, and I get it, they're public figures, but
Sure.
I would love to know how did how did they come to these decisions?
Mm,
Were they under, someone's care who
hmm
said,
hmm
hey, like this is obviously your call, but
mm, hmm
like I would love to know
hmm
how it is that they came to these decisions.
Sure.
Be
What
be it
choices?
unrelated.
What
Yeah,
choices were they making? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like where were they already in therapy? Where's
Mm,
this something that they um ca- did they come to this decision on their own, or was there
mm,
some assistance? Because I think that's the part that people need to hear is that,
mm.
you know, there's help out there, and
Yes.
that where those resources are,
Mm,
and understanding. I mean, big key is just understanding that you're not alone.
yes. No, I think, and I think to a degree of the people I was speaking about, and probably including MJ at that point in his career, again, maybe those resources were not as available, and they were also, and again, as men, taught not to let that out the bag. You become weak if you do, right?
Mhm. Right.
I will give the NBA a lot of credit because now they openly address that. Or well, they try to. It's
Mhm.
still a work in progress,
Right.
but they try to address that in a wholehearted fashion, in a transparent fashion. That yeah, there are these things that these men go through, and I think that's fair. I wish more leagues would start doing that.
Right.
For these high performing athletes. I can only imagine. I'm well, I'll speak for both of us because I think we're just regular everyday folks, right?
Right. Right.
we're not these elite athlete performing,
Right. Right. Right.
but there's already enough pressure just being an everyday person, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
There's enough there, so I cannot imagine the amount of pressure in the spotlight.
Yeah, you're
And
under a microscope like that.
oh my goodness, I cannot. That is just an immense amount of pressure. I'm more shocked that there's not more mental health issues than there are
Right.
based on that. But yeah, like what you said is so critical too. Knowing that there are resources out there. I
Mhm.
know we mentioned talk space, right?
Yes.
But maybe, what's the one thing that we do all the time when we want to find something out? We Google it.
We Google it. We Google it.
Yeah. So, man, don't hesitate. If you feel a certain way, Google it.
Yes.
Type it in. Where can I receive, help, whatever locality you're in? There's something somewhere. There's a phone number. There's a website. There's, man.
So
This.
my suggestion would be NAMI. That's N as in Nancy, A, M as in Mary, I. That's the National Association of Mental Illness. And they
Okay.
have plenty of resources. And they, like I said, they are national. And I always
Another
like
great resource.
their slogan has been, it has been, I don't know that it still is, but it has been label jars, not people.
Yes.
And they are definitely an organization that can gear people to who they need to speak to.
That's an awesome resource.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, label jars, not people.
Not people. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right, like, mental health affects everyone differently. There's no one size fits all.
No, there isn't.
So again, we've talked about, like, public personalities and what they've done, but that may not be you. And obviously we consider ourselves everyday folks, and that's fine. But what we talk about or what we deal with, maybe that's not what you deal with.
Right.
But you're still not alone either way.
Right. Exactly.
You're not alone. Oh man. Yeah, it's just mental health is so. Just imagine, like, so many things. If you take that one courageous step to reach out. Just one courageous step. That's all. And I'll tell you what, Julie, I want to offer this. If you don't reach out to any of those things that we mentioned, Talkspace or NAMD, right?
NAMI.
NAMI. Sorry. And gotcha, NAMI. You can reach out to us. You can, again, we've talked about how to be interactive with us with the link that you can leave a voice message and a voice note. We've talked about the email, liveallgood44@gmail.com, or going to the website and liveallgood.com and getting in touch. Like it will be private. It's not for public use. If this is a message that you need to send to us in order to find a resource for help, we can get you in the right direction too, and that's nobody's business. But just offering you that space and that help for whatever you might need, will point you in the right direction. Man. So Julie, is there any last comments or final thought that you want to kind of leave our listeners with for mental health?
I will just say that whatever it is that is happening at the moment, and while it may feel catastrophic, understand that it's not, and that it is always important for you to not feel alone and to reach out and to have a conversation, because the reality is what is happening is just a moment, and you have so many other moments in your future that you can't let this moment ruin those.
Love it. So well said. Thank you for opening that up for our listeners. All right, you guys, that has been one more episode of Cruising with the Coaches. We appreciate you listening on this Wednesday. We have loved the time that we have spent with you on getting you through the middle of your week there. You can find Cruising with the Coaches on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You heard me mention it before, but if you are doing the before we go, homework. That's right. Almost forgot. But I think with the final thought that you had mentioned, that's it. Like, not mention, sorry, just take a look at what's going on in your life. See how mental health shows up for you. How are you feeling? Kind of get in touch with, we talked about it earlier, if you're kind of avoiding people, if you're isolating more than usual, if you're having just thoughts of, man, I just can't get it together.
If you're in a funk.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay to just acknowledge that.
Yep.
Acknowledge that and take a time out, and that's okay. It is okay to not be okay.
It is.
So that's the homework. Go ahead and recognize those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we acknowledge it as well as you do.
Absolutely.
So that was a little preemptive, but yes, we have enjoyed our Wednesday with you guys, and we appreciate all of the people listening. Again, feel free to reach out to us, as we mentioned in this episode, for if you need to reach out for any mental health issues for us to get you in the right direction, or also reaching out and let us know about how you're doing with the homework.
Mm-hmm.
That's there's a link there. You can leave a voice message. There is liveallgood44@gmail.com, or you can go to the website at liveallgood.com, leave a comment, or even connect and contact. We'd definitely love to hear from you. So until next time, and I guess we're going to do this through the winter, huh? We're cruising through. Pun intended. Yes, we're cruising through. So,
yes.
All right, you guys, we totally appreciate it. We will see you in a couple weeks on a Wednesday.
All right. Take care. Thanks for listening.